At the Wildlife Trust, we want to make sure that nature's recovery is at the heart of our response to climate change. And that's because the climate crisis and the nature crisis are very interlinked. So we can't solve climate change without solving the nature crisis, and we can't solve the nature crisis without climate change. And one of the things that's really important at COP26 is that we start to turn words into actions. And one of the key things for the Wildlife Trusts is to let nature support and help the response to climate change. Climate change is already having an impact in Norfolk, and it will continue to have an impact. And we know that there are various things that might happen. The sea level rise and will impact our coasts and our coastal habitats. We'll probably experience greater flooding, and that kind of thing will become more common as we go through. And also it will impact our species in Norfolk. So some of our insects that are really valuable for pollination, particularly for our agricultural economy. And also the bird life that's iconic in Norfolk will be impacted by climate change. So the impacts will be across our nature in Norfolk. Our reserves here at Norfolk Wildlife Trust are absolutely central to everything we do. And as we go forward into this century, they will have to adapt to a changing climate. We know that, and we're already looking at that in our management plans for the reserves. There are various ways in which the reserves can help in the nature crisis and the climate crisis. Storing of carbon in woodlands and peatlands and wetlands. We have a lot of reserves at Norfolk Wildlife Trust, but it's actually less than 1% of the land in Norfolk. So we've really got to work with other landowners and communities to make sure we're all taking action for nature and climate in Norfolk. So one project that we've got at the moment is a project in the Claylands of South Norfolk, which is really aiming to put back the fabric of the landscape, the lost fabric of the landscape. And these will be nature corridors, there'll be hedgerows, there'll be ponds, there'll be small pieces of woodland. We're an organisation of 36,000 members, so we're always looking for people to come and join the organisation to stand for what we stand for. You can come and volunteer on one of our sites. You can do things in your own garden for nature in terms of putting more nature-friendly planting in, or ponds, and actually stop buying peat from your local garden centre, because we know that's a major issue with our landscapes in this country. We're right in the middle of the COP meeting, so things aren't finished yet. And it's clear that we've got a long way to go before the weekend. One of the things that I think has been really interesting is people are really starting to talk about actions, not words, about thinking about not the pledges that we might want to make, but what actual actions are we taking now instead of 20 or 30 years in the future. And I think that's critical at this point. And I think we can all respond to that. It's not going to work if we start to take actions in 20 or 30 years' time. We have to be really thinking now, in the next 5 or 6 years, what actions are we all going to take to resolve these issues? So I think that there is some hope from this COP. We have got a long way to go, and it's quite clear that we're a long way off our targets to generate the 1.5 degrees of warming that the scientists say we should be aiming for. So we're all hoping, and we'll see what happens after this weekend.